Hello and welcome to the last 3DN of the year. I'm looking forward to sharing with you two ideas, really. The comparison between feedback and feed forward, and then also looking at front loading behavior management with a focus on Pastor's Perch. Actually, really timely that I'm talking to you about this now. I was supposed to talk to you about it in the summer, but I didn't get a chance on the training day. But actually, these two things come at a really good time in the year. So I'll just begin with feed forward. Now, Cetal has shared this with you before. So I'm just using her slides and then just a refocus on that. So when we talk about feedback, it's such a word that we use all the time. What we're talking about is students' past performance relative to a learning goal or an outcome. And it's usually written or verbal, and it can be positive and it can be negative, but it doesn't always offer a plan of action, and it can't be changed either. So feedback is something that I think we use when we talk about all the time with our students, but actually would changing the focus from feedback to feed forward actually help the students make more progress. So feed forward is more focused on how students can develop and improve in the future. So say you're marking a test, what you actually, rather than feeding back on what the students have done in the test, actually telling the students how could they do better if they were to do that test again, or if they were to do a test on a similar subject. So how could you develop and improve on what you've done for the future? It is also written or verbal, but it's about positive ways to move forwards, so it doesn't have that negative focus as well. It offers a plan of action, but it should challenge students also. And it's about the students that making sure that you're explicit with students about the changes that they can make. And it's all about progress forward rather than focusing on what went wrong backwards, okay? And then there is a 3D newsletter which has got that information on, and a video from Cetal as well in a bit more detail about that. So I'll link that into the email for this video. What she also talked about during that section was live marking. So after COVID, I think a lot of us spent a lot of time maybe behind our desk, didn't always focus on what the students were doing live in the lesson. And I think a refocus of live marking and actually looking at what your students are doing in the lesson at that time is really important. So looking for ways to give positive feedback to students that is personal to them. So we're always looking for ways to personalise learning. Well, actually live marking allows you to do that. Live marking is just going around the room and marking as the students are working. You can question students individually about their thinking there and then it allows you to address misconceptions really quickly there. It allows you to give them immediate feed forward. So, okay, well, this is your thinking now. This is how you could improve it for the next question. Again, saying there about the misconceptions, it allows you to really deepen the questioning that you're asking students and really draw out from them the very hardest things that you want them to understand. You can use visual prompts to scaffold a student's response. So say a response isn't great, you could maybe draw them a diagram to help them or a flow chart to try and help them develop their response into a better response. It allows you to do whole class feed forward. Oh, I've noticed that 3 or 4 of you are getting this wrong. Let's have a look at what's going wrong and how we are going to address that to move our learning forward. Students want you to look at their work. I mean, gone are the days where we mark books, but students really, really want us to see what they are doing. And so it allows you to have that positive interaction with students and build that relationship with them. Plus, it's quick and manageable for you. Walking around a class and doing some live, you can see some examples here of Cetal's live marking. It's quick. So she's used a visual prompt here. I don't know, we weren't there, but she's obviously used this here to help support the student make this answer here. And here she's feeding forward, okay, what are the units? You can see that the student has then added them. She's made a correction about a misconception to do with amount and volume. She's enabled the student to move their learning forward by asking a question here, okay, which the student has then done, and Cecil has obviously gone back and seen that. So some really good opportunities there to A, engage with students, and B, move their learning forward through feed forward. The next thing I just want to talk to you about is a particular aspect of front-loading behaviour management. It sounds like a really posh term, but all it means is front-loading behaviour management is where you tell the student what you want them to do first. I've got an example of it in a minute to show you, but it's really good at building relationships. I think we all feel at the minute that dealing with students who are behaving poorly is quite exhausting. We're all probably quite exhausted with it at the moment. And actually, using these ideas of front-loading behaviour management actually enables the students to exhibit better learning behaviours easier, because they know what you want them to do. And I think sometimes we don't actually focus on what we're telling the students to do. So here's some examples, and I'll do a particular focus on past as Perch. So means of participation is how the students engage with your lesson. So in your lesson, that could be hands up, no hands up, core response, mini whiteboards, and independent practice, and lots of other things. Do we actually always tell our students how we want to engage with your task? How do we want them to participate? So we might actually forget. So, and have we planned for it? Have we planned how we want that response for the students to make the best progress? So if we forget to explicitly tell them how we want them to participate, that can lead to confusion, disengagement, and then reduced performance. We can also use that to tell them how we don't want them to participate. So without calling out, can anyone tell me, for example. And then if you put that with front loading, so front loading is where you tell them the means of participation and then the instruction. And I think so often we do the instruction and then don't always do the means of participation. So you issue your means at the start of your instruction. So this is an example that they use in walkthroughs. With the hand in the air, can anyone tell me? Now I know for certain I would say, can anyone tell me first? And then the students don't know how to interact with that. So some students put their hands up, some students will put their hands down, some students have a discussion about it. So actually by telling them the means of participation first, it allows them to easier participate in the way that you want them to and reduces that low level disruption. Okay. So that is better than can anyone tell me with a hand in the air, because students will listen to the first instruction more easily. So yeah, students will, as it says here, students will tend to respond to the first cue. So get the means of participation across first. Looking at past as Perch as well, this is something, when I first read it, I was like, oh, I do this. This seems like such an easy thing to do. But actually, when I really thought about how it's more about the means of participation of you with your students. So you want them to engage in your lesson, but how are you engaging with them and what they're doing? And actually having a real focus and using this particular technique, I've found that my interactions with students, allow the students who are making the least progress to make more progress. And it also allows me to have a really clear view on what everyone's doing in the room. So I'll lay out the steps for it. So it's being able to see what your students are doing at all time and allows you to spot issues in their infancy and tackle them. Now, you need to choose a perch in your room where you can see the greatest number of students. So usually it's at the front or it might be at the side. You probably need to be stood up so you can see above them. And then you don't really want to be able to have to turn your head to see the rest. So mine is just at the front corner where my computer desk is. But if you move around your room, you can figure out where the best place to stand is whilst you're watching them work. And then you use it with this 3-30-30 technique. So once the students are working, what I used to do is immediately start circulating, or I might immediately go to a particular student. And that is a good thing, but it's about the timing of it. So the 3-30-30 principle would suggest that for the first 3 minutes of student work, you wait and watch the students from Pastor's Perch. Now, I would put a little caveat on that. It might be that very initially you might go and visit your SEND students so that to ensure they know what they're doing, or you might just go and very initially go and visit your PP students just to check they know what they're doing. But then for the majority of the class, you then, once everyone's working, you wait for the 3 minutes and you watch what students are doing from your perch. Okay, and you really need to make sure everyone is engaged and in the task. Okay, and if they're not, then you can use behavior management techniques to make sure that they are engaging. Then only go for one student for 30 seconds. Might be you do some live marking, might be that you ask them a question, might be that they're not on task and you're trying to figure out what they are actually, can they not engage with the task, or are they just off task because they're being distracted, and etc. And then you go to another student for 30 seconds so that you can get round the class or to a number of students, and you're not, one student doesn't monopolize all your time. And then you go back to your perch and you repeat the 3-30-30 cycle. I found this is really, really beneficial for me to get to see students that I don't always talk to, because we have that unconscious bias of maybe talking to students that we always talk to. And I always find that the corners of my room is somewhere that's really hard to get to. So if I use Pastor's Perch, it allows me to actually really check if those students are working. And then with this as well, and this is part of the theatre of being a teacher, I think, the part that we play. Watching students is helpful, but it can be made more powerful if they know you're watching. So a lot of students will want to impress you. They want to show you they're doing the right thing, especially if it's a student who doesn't always do the right thing and they are choosing to do the right thing in that lesson. They will want to show you that. So using exaggerated movements or gestures to show that you are actually watching them is really powerful, and it's silent, so it doesn't disrupt the other students. So craning over to see what they're doing if they're not quite doing the right thing, using a thumbs up if you can see that they are doing the right thing, show them that you're looking at what they're doing. And then if their behavior isn't appropriate, hold them account to that. You're talking when you should be working. You're not making as much progress in this task as I would like you to. Okay, so I need you to be on task. What can I do to help you do that? Okay, so actually really exaggerating the fact that you are engaged with what they are doing will improve a lot of students' relationships with you and the behaviours they're exhibiting in your lesson, because they want to walk around with a stamper or a sticker as well, because students even my year 13 students love a sticker. You get the right stickers, so having a stamp or a sticker, exaggerating the fact that you've seen they've done great and so you're stamping their work is really powerful. So hopefully that feed forward, thinking about that over Christmas, because we've just done mock exams with a lot of our students, how are we going to use that feed forward to ensure our students make more progress? And then thinking carefully about how am I engaging with my students in my lesson to enable them to make progress. So using live marking, thinking about Pastor's Perch, and thinking about the 3-30-30 and those exaggerated observational movements for your students. I hope you have a really, really great Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year. Thank you.